Good morning. Thank you so much for having us here today. Sally and I started our career in tech over 10 years ago, and it was hard to find a girl in tech, let alone a whole conference about girls in tech. So a lot has changed in 10 years, but we know there's still so much more to change. So firstly, thank you for being here. If you're here, you're part of the movement or you're supporting the movement, and we love to see that. Let's see if my clicker's going to work. Bit too well. Come back a couple. So yes, we are twins. Here's some proof. Back from the 80s, matching outfits. So we're going to start with a little bit about us and how we ended up in our careers in technology. Our parents migrated to Australia from Croatia. The good old famous story, they had nothing but 2 spoons. It's true. We're of that ilk. So we grew up in a pretty working class suburb in Adelaide, and things were tough. Our parents worked in factories, they were always changing jobs, and we kind of felt that. And it certainly has, I think, had an impression on Sally and I, wanting to hustle from a really early age. We were like, when can we start working? So the first job we got, of course, was at McDonald's, because it's the first people who will employ you when you're like 14 3/4. So day dot, we applied for that job. And Sally got the job and I didn't. Because let me tell you, I'm actually really clumsy. And so we had to do this trial and we were making the sundaes and it was going everywhere and I didn't get the call back. Luckily for me, I love to study, and so I was very studiously, kind of working towards another path. But I did get a call back a few weeks later. They must have been desperate. So we started in McDonald's as soon as we can, and we've been hustling since we were children. So what that led to is careers where we're really both just working around the clock. That burnout for us was inevitable. We wanted to start working ASAP. I went to uni, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference between us, because twins are often polar opposites, and that is certainly the case with us. So while I went to uni, I thought that wasn't enough, studying uni full time. I wanted to get a job in a corporate career at the same time. So I got that job full-time towards the end of my degree and finished the rest of my degree in my evenings. So I was working full-time in institutional finance at ANZ, really fun, and studying in the evening. And I'll talk a little bit about where I went after that, because I did that for about 5 years, but it really wasn't fulfilling. Sally also hustled her way, not through the same career academic path as I did.
That's right. As Julie said, we are complete opposites. So while Julie was at school at the front of the class, getting all the A's, I was often sitting next to her and cheating, to the point that the school we went to was a public school, actually created a custom opportunity for me. They said, this girl doesn't show up to class, and when she does, she's distracting the whole class. Let's actually set her up at the junior primary in an assistant teaching training role. And I actually got to do that instead of studying. What that was it was amazing, because it showed me there was opportunities outside of textbooks. And so I quit school. Quit school in year 10, because I was like, this is amazing, but I'm actually just going to quit and just go and work and actually get paid to do something like this. So I did. I quit school in year 10 and I started working full time, literally at the age of 16. And I remember getting a job in the local council, doing parking fines and dog fines and all that sort of stuff, whilst also working at McDonald's. And as Julie said, we came from an upbringing where it really taught us, if you want something in life, you have to work hard and you have to earn it. So that's literally kind of the genetic makeup that actually became about the two of us. We worked really hard, and we learnt from early on that the life skill was almost like going to school and achieving, whether it was a credit or a distinction. What you want out of life is a lot to do with the effort and the will that you're willing to put in. And so once I got the taste of what it was like to earn money, I started looking around and finding opportunities that would make me more money. And I started realizing that's going to be a role that gives me commission, because then I can obviously control how much I can obviously earn. So with that, I ended up falling into recruitment. And I did that for a good 8 years. And I recruited hardcore. I'm talking from 6 a.m. all the way through to 11 p.m. at night. I was just work. And whilst it was great, I made huge amounts of money, it actually led to a really unhealthy lifestyle. It became this focus point for me where all I thought about was money. How much money could I make? What money could I, use to, whether it was travel, but I didn't have enough time to travel because I was too busy making more money. Didn't have enough time to go and spend with family or friends because I was too busy working. And it really started to become this lifestyle that started affecting what I ate, how my mindset was, how I, really took those moments to enjoy life, which I realized I actually wasn't. I was like a mouse on a wheel, just going, and really not stopping to smell the roses. That is until 2008, where I actually was overseas. I finally managed to take a break. It was my very first holiday ever. And I finally took a break and I went overseas and I was in the shower and I noticed a lump in my breast. It's like, that's really odd. Something strange. Anyways, went to the doctors and progressively over the next couple of days, it started getting really bad. What I didn't realize is that it was actually a tumor. So I flew back to Australia, went and saw the doctor, had the mammogram, and I remember getting the results. And on the bag it said to me, do not include results. Scan it instantly to St. Vincent's Hospital. I was actually living in Melbourne at the time. And I remember sitting in the car, holding it, going, I'm just going to open it. What if they happen to be in there? And I did. I opened it up, and sure enough, it said, right breast is consistent with carcinoma. And I rang Julie, because she's Mensa and she knows everything. She's like my walking dictionary encyclopedia. And I remember ringing her and going, Julie, I don't know what this means. I said, it says carcinoma, what is that? And Julie wasn't actually home. And she's like, I don't know, it sounds like cancer, but I'm not sure. So
I'm not a walking medical encyclopedia, but Google was around. We're not that old. So quick Google.
I raced home and I Googled it, and sure enough, there was my diagnosis. I actually was admitted to the Peter MacCallum Cancer Clinic. And I remember taking a moment just to stand at the front of those doors. And it literally said Cancer Clinic. And I stood there, and I have never done this in my life. I'm like, go, go, go. I don't even pay attention to things. But I remember standing there for just a moment, taking a deep breath and going, my whole life is about to change. I'm 27 years old. There's absolutely no family history of any cancer of any kind. What I did know is that it had started to be seen on TV. Olivia Newton-John was diagnosed. All these things were happening, and all I knew was that cancer related to death. And so for a moment there, I stood and I committed to myself. I said, when you walk through those doors, you have got two options. You walk through as a victim, or you walk through as a fighter. And that is the moment that I realized how powerful the mindset is. Not only in how you handle situations that are of adversity and can really push you and challenge you, but even just in everyday life, we have the option to choose to be grateful for things. We have the option to see the glass half full, half empty, whatever it may be. But I knew then and there, if I could control my mindset and my journey with battling cancer, that I really was able to fulfill myself with far more peace than I ever have before. So sure enough, that is what I did. I walked through, I had 7 months of chemo, I had a double mastectomy, a reconstruction, and then I went into 6 years of forced menopause. And that entire journey, whilst it stripped me of everything I knew who I was, no hair, no eyelashes, I used to, back then it wasn't seen very often, so I would catch the tram into the city because I still worked full time. That was actually to pay for medical bills, not because I wanted to. Still caught the tram into the city, and I would have little kids point at me and go, Mum, why has she shaved all her hair off? Or Mum, why does she look like a boy? So I was challenged completely, but every time I just remember breathing and saying, choose your feelings wisely, because how your mindset affects you now will affect you in the future, for every step, for every day moving forward.
And that really was the genesis for us going on our wellness kick. As Sally said, we were burnt out. We were working around the clock, and we decided that was the kind of wake-up call that we needed. So we, really got into health and fitness. Sally was doing weights training in Melbourne. She was addicted to going to the Gold's Gym, was it?
Doherty's Gym.
Doherty's, sorry, that's probably a big faux pas. I was living in London at that stage, and I started going to Bikram yoga. And like anything, I don't know, I can't help myself. It's all or nothing. So I was going every day, 5 days a week. Before work, and I was working at a tech startup, but at least there was some balance. It wasn't all work. It was working out and being healthy and working. So it was there in Bikram Yoga in London, actually during a beautiful Shavasana, that the idea for Stylerunner really did come to me. I had been going to Bikram now for a few weeks, and as a girl who loves to shop, I was looking for some very nice Bikram outfits. And I was in London, one of the most fashionable cities in the world, and I just could not believe that I couldn't find, outfits that were as fun as like the rest of the shopping experience. I can shop for dresses and I can shop for corporate wear and jeans and everything. And 10 years ago, it's quite a while ago, it was just really mass market sports stores. And even then, the women's industry was kind of like in the back corner. It was very unloved. There was an industry term that was called just pink it and shrink it, which means that there was like no design effort for women's sportswear. It was like men's was like 70% of the sales. And so for women, just make the singlet smaller and pink. So very unloved, but I like a challenge. So I was Googling all around the world, activewear Brazil, activewear Ukraine, like wherever. I was like determined to find this somewhere. And if I was going to that effort searching for it, I realized there must be other women who love to shop. That I could validate. And I also looked at the public markets, right? Lululemon, Nike, public companies, big, big companies. Lululemon was $1 billion business already at that stage, growing at 40% year on year. I could see this as a big opportunity. So we decided we don't have any experience in e-commerce. We don't have any experience in retail.
But we love a challenge.
Besides working behind a counter, but the opportunity was there. And opportunity can really strike you anywhere. So the first thing that we did was validate it, look at the data if you can, find out how big that market is, etc. And then we took that leap of faith. It was a really fun journey, roller coaster, as many people will tell you about when they start startups. Without going through the whole Stylerunner journey, because we'll talk about where we've come to now as well, we'll give you a few of the lessons that really stood out to us. It's pretty obvious now that there is this obvious market for women and activewear. The activewear has become part of leisure wear. You wear it all of the time, etc. But in the early days, we were pitching this idea to investors because we needed money to fund the growth, and about 99% of them were men. And
old men. They were literally old men being pitched women's activewear.
Not a target they were, really excited about, a market they were really excited about. So that was the first challenge, is we were pitching to people who didn't understand our market, weren't excited about it, so it was really, really difficult to get funding. That hasn't changed too much today. It has changed slightly. Today, about 13% of VCs are females, so that's nearly 9 in 10 are still male. That's 10 years later. It is still woefully low. I am grateful to see that number growing, but we're still so far behind for everyone here to have a better opportunity to get funding. If you don't have someone who understands your market, how excited are they and how likely are they to understand your market? So the first thing was really the funding a female-founded business and a female-focused business is incredibly difficult. It still is today. The second thing that really stood out was we were very, very lucky in Stylerunner's early days because we grew on the back of social media, organic growth. We spent $0 on marketing for the first 5 years, and we grew over 1,000% in like 3 years. It was enormous. We got to tens of millions of dollars of revenue with $0 marketing. That today, unfortunately, there are still many ways to grow your business, but unfortunately that social reach just is not there anymore. Even and especially if you have spent years growing a following on Instagram, you might have 1 million followers, you might have 10 million followers, you might have 100,000 followers. It almost doesn't matter. How sad is that? You spent years, resources, employees, money, photo shoots to build this following, and now they barely see anything organic. It's all being, driven by advertising. And that led to a little bit of, what we're doing now, which we'll come back to. And the third lesson, which I did have.
Did you forget it?
Yes. I'm sure it will come back to us. Oh, boo-woo. Business woo-woo. I think it's really important to say, Sally and I, as much as we're pragmatic and we do the hard work and we do the plans and all of those sorts of things, we do believe in a little bit of woo-woo.
Oh yes, we are woo-woo to the core. And this is going back to the mindset, right? Because In order to choose your mindset and visualize what you want in future, you have to believe it. And sometimes you've got to stretch your mind into really wild places. I remember when we started out, 2 girls, no experience in retail or e-commerce, and we started out Stylerunner. We created vision boards. On those vision boards was the likes of signing up, Stella McCartney by Adidas, was being able to be one of the best accounts for Nike. We had that on a vision board and we genuinely visualized it. Laminated it, put it in my shower. I learned from Lorraine Murphy from The Remarkables, and I would literally wash my hair while visualizing because it was my quiet space. Nobody was in there, no kids, no nothing, just me and my vision board. Sure enough, we actually were called over to Nike HQ in Portland. And I remember Julie and I sitting there and kicking each other under the table like, holy shit, is this actually happening? They called us over and they were literally asking us for advice on how to market to women. What the fuck?
They were very complimentary. They said that they thought we were doing women's sportswear better than anyone in the world, and they put it in a card, which of course we still have today. And that was an incredible experience. We were the first account to get Stella McCartney for Adidas on a pure play, so online only in the world. Stella McCartney had to approve that herself. Now, I talk about like the vision boards, etc., but it's not just that. We actually brought this into our company culture. So every morning at Stylerunner, we would read a gratitude. We would talk about, I don't like to use the law of attraction because it's so loaded, but we would talk about that energy, like believing in what you can achieve. You know, if you don't believe it, your energy is already in the wrong place. And I read a book that said, if you are not sure about the law of attraction, etc., why don't you just try it? What is the harm? It's an experiment. And because I'm really a scientist deep down, I love that challenge. It's an experiment. So put myself in the position of really positive energy and do that as really as committed as you can for 60 days, whatever it is, and see if there's a difference. That's an experiment. That doesn't cost you anything. But what I love the most about it is it doesn't matter what the results are. If you're a non-believer and you are going to do all the things you would do anyway, because you don't stop working. You don't go, I believe it's going to happen and so I'm just going to sit here and wait now. It's just the believing. You still do all of the work. But if you do the positive thinking and you don't think it'll impact your results, do you know what it is impacting? Being happier, being more positive, being more grateful. And isn't that almost enough? And then if it delivers anything else, isn't that just the most amazing bonus ever? It is purely a win-win. If you really put yourself in that position of gratitude, believing, being positive, being optimistic, the journey is already more fun and more rewarding. And we believe, and we still believe, that it does attract those, kind of amazing wins and results. So there's really no harm in trying it. So I'm not saying that, I'm here to convince you. I'm just saying it's actually not a bad theory when you think about it that way. So we talked about one of those challenges for businesses. And I was still at Stylerunner. Accent Group acquired Stylerunner in 2019, I think, and I stayed on for 2 years and helped roll out the now more than 20 stores, which was really fun. And it was really fabulous to see it kind of live up to the legacy we always believed in, but were unable to get the funding to continue to do ourselves. It really needed the deep pockets of something like an Accent Group. And I take great pride in seeing where that business is today. But Sally had an idea, and she came knocking on the door and tapped me on the shoulder. Do you want to talk about the initiation of HVB from your side?
So I was actually living in Bali at the time. I have learnt to take some holidays in my older years. And so what I was doing is I was sitting at a cafe and I was actually buying and selling domain names. Girls still got to make money. And I remember finding her black book in 2018, and I remember sitting on it and going, I love this name. I'm going to do something with it. So that was instantly the very first thing for me. I already had the light bulb moment. And then, as the intro mentioned, I am into crime, homicides, all the gory, gruesome stuff. So I started studying criminology. And when I started studying criminology, I was actually given a pass to Student Edge as a uni student. And I remember logging on and going, oh, this is pretty cool, discounts, etc. But it was really masculine and didn't feel like it suited my style. It wasn't premium. And I kind of was like, this is a great idea. I know that I get so frustrated trying to find my vouchers and discounts and flash sales from all my favorite brands that I love, but I couldn't access in a beautiful way. This was a great product, but it didn't suit me at all. It didn't have any of the brands that I like to shop from. So I knew instantly there was a gap there in the market. And I had qualified it pretty much from, being able to do some surveys for consumers to see if other people felt the same. Julie was still at Stylerunner, and as she mentioned, and I knew that she would be able to help qualify it for me from a brand perspective. And that's where I went, how fun would it be to poach Julie from literally the first company we started? That's pretty cool. Knock, knock, knock.
So when Sally came to me with this idea, and the prospect really from a consumer side is it's a shopping and discovery app where there are lots of discounts and exclusives, especially for a target demographic. And as that demographic is, it's very similar to the one we had at Stylerunner. It's aspirational. It's mostly women-led. But let me tell you, there's quite a few men who shop our app too, because we have brands like the Iconic and Nike, etc. And so if you're clever, you'll jump in there and, there's really lots of agnostic deals. Now, when Sally came to me, I was still at Stylerunner, and I definitely wear a retail hat a lot. And I could just feel the challenges of being a retailer. It is tough. And so one of the things I knew is that there's an amazing service there for consumers, but my gosh, this could help solve some of the pain points for retailers as well. Because as a retailer, there are times that you need to move inventory. You just need to. End of season, things that didn't move, things that didn't sell, etc. But you always worry about the brand damage of holding sales and things like that. And so when somebody can help do that for you, it's kind of like a best friend saying so-and-so is on sale or has a deal, etc., rather than the brand going, we're on sale. And so I loved it from that perspective. I also loved that what Sally was proposing was, it's not new. There are cashback things in the market already, but it was again about doing it in this aspirational way, which adds a halo to brands. So I could definitely see the benefits to brands as well. So we had this idea, worked for brands, worked for consumers, let's do it. Now, we launched Her Black Book in November 2021. Guess what? That was the hottest market for technology. Guess what happens right at the peak? Crashes. So we literally launched a new technology company just before a tech winter. Where's this karma coming from? We're just two girls that want to hustle. Give us a break. So we were very lucky that we did get a bit of that, kind of wind. When markets are hot, it means there's more investment. And we were able to close an investment deal, 2 deals in fact, one to get the concept up and running and another one to just kind of give us that runway. So we closed one in January 2022 and we're so lucky we did.
We should say we closed it. Those investors actually came to us. So it was a VC and some high net worths, and they actually came knocking on our door. Because Julie's pretty smart, but she didn't have the foresight to see what was going to happen in tech.
Damn it.
We didn't go to market. We were like, we don't need to over-raise because look, the market's hot. We can get money later. So we just took what was offered. Had we known better, we would have raised hell of a lot more.
Raise a war chest. If you get that opportunity, there's a lesson for you. So what has happened since is we feel like we've got this amazing idea and the brands are loving it. We're signing up brands. We've got over 700 brands. By the way, we have brands like Gucci and Harrods and ASOS and incredible brands. Snuggle Honey. We have emerging brands. We have big established brands. I love what we're doing for brands. And I mentioned that organic reach. If you're a brand out there, I know how much that hurts. What we're doing is giving you back that organic following that will always see your posts. But we've got this amazing idea and now it's really difficult to get funding. So what do? As I mentioned, the market is incredibly difficult for women. Here's some more depressing stats, but we're gonna soldier on past these, but these are the sobering stats if you would like to know them. The amount of funding that goes to female-only founders, so it's just a pure female founder team, is less than 3%. 3%? Outrageous. I mean, we should be rioting on the streets. There are so many reasons, and we could go into that. And I understand that, VCs are trying to pick things that they believe will, kind of deliver. And what happens is this pattern recognition. They see engineers and they go, oh, reminds me of that last engineer I backed and they killed it, etc. That's just one of the ideas.
Reminds me of Nick Molnar. We've heard that one before. Literally, VC told us they backed a company because the founder reminded them of Nick Molnar. Do I need to shave my hair or dye it, grow a little mo out? Maybe, but also there's a lesson in that. A lot of people, women in business, are now considering bringing on a co-founder who is a male because it might be worth playing the game whilst you need to in the meantime,
yep, it's an
in
option,
order
sadly,
to actually shift the matrix. So if dual female-founded businesses are struggling to get investment, what can we do to shift it? We can't just, complain and whinge and moan and keep pushing and keep pushing and pushing. You've got to move the chess pieces in the right way, and that might mean getting a founder on board or a co-founder who has got a male background or who is male, born male, whatever. And sometimes bringing that person into the room can actually shift the conversation. It sucks. It really sucks, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
And the sooner you get on board with the reality of doing what needs to be done so you can change the pathway for the future, that only creates a better space.
I'll tell you one more tip in that area. We talk about just having, understanding what is happening and doing the things that may give you a better chance. One of the other things that is happening if and when you're pitching for investment, this is some research that has been done about female founders, is that when they're pitching, unconsciously investors tend to ask women more questions around what will happen if things don't go well. And so these women have got terrific plans and they share what will happen if, this is a downside protection. And they go into this and they might be terrific, they might be perfect, they might be so well planned. But guess what gets more money? Talking about risk or talking about the big blue sky? The big blue sky. The data says that the founders that are talking about that big vision and how big this could be get more dollars. And so the fact that unconsciously women are being asked more questions about risk means that they're automatically likely to get less money, and the stats reveal that too. Not only do we get less than 3% of VC funding, but when we do get VC funding, those checks are lower. So what you can do, one little thing, you've got to take all the little straws you can. If you could ask those questions about risk, answer the question about risk, but make sure you get that conversation back to the blue sky. So it is tough out there, no tougher than when you're in a tech winter, but don't lose faith. Here are some lessons that we've learnt through our journey. We'll leave you with 3 takeaways.
Yeah. So team, super important for team culture. It's something we did really well and we're really proud of with Stylerunner, and we continue to do with her Black Book. It's, yes, you've got the big goals and the visions and that lots of hard work to get through, but you have to make it enjoyable. And you also have to be, connecting. And for us, one thing we learned early on is to be transparent. So if your team are aware of how hard the struggles are, especially in this day and age where, companies are being let go of left, right, and centre, people's fundings are being diminished to the nines, then you have to be transparent so that they can understand it and there's not an insecurity or a level of resentment internally or a lack of trust. They actually end up turning into war soldiers. Your team, when you trust them with how hard the journey is and you include a little bit of fun and spice, they end up becoming literally your war soldiers and they will go into battle with you. And that is something that we have found and we continue to foster, again, both at Stylerunner and HBB. And it is about taking a moment to say thank you or to go and celebrate the small wins. The big wins are great, but you know what? The small wins are magic.
Resilience. Now, when you start a startup, if you haven't already or you're at the early days, everything that goes wrong feels so big. It's enough to send you into a meltdown sometimes. But over time, you actually realize it's like a muscle. You just have to face that as bravely and courageously as you can and keep soldiering on. And you actually learn a year later, 3 years later, 5 years later, you can face the biggest things and you can actually sleep at night. It is just part of the job. It will make you stronger. I think that when you start something, you have this aspiration, you want to achieve something which is bigger than you are today. It is these things that make you grow as a person that is actually the most rewarding part of the journey. So embrace the resilience. We talked about how tough it is for us as a tech company today, but we are making some major wins. We might have made it sound like it's all doom and gloom, but let me tell you, those tough times make you have to be more strategic. We just signed a major partnership with a bank, to collaborate with their audience of their biggest shoppers, and that came out of not being able to spend the same marketing dollars we could have if we had more funding. So resilience will make you tougher, leaner, smarter, hungrier. Don't let it, don't make it rocking yourself to sleep at night. It can be very, very stressful. Be brave, get through it, and you'll be a stronger person for it.
Balance, we spoke about balance. It's so important. One of the things we're doing in our office, for example, is we have a challenge every month. This month, it's called the HBB Step Challenge. And we encourage our team to actually go and get their steps, to actually step away from the computer. We make them send photo evidence, so they can't just do the adjustments on the tracker. They actually have to take photos of walking outside, getting fresh air. And we make it that whoever wins at the end gets a restaurant prize. But we make it fun and enjoyable and inclusive. And you might just want to walk around your living room, which is what I do when I can see I'm lagging behind everybody else, walk around my coffee table at night. But it is about ensuring you stop and take those moments to reset, breathe, and just, take a little bit of time out.
It is so hard to just want to work around the clock when you have a startup. There are so many jobs to do, but take it from us. The number one thing that you can do is look after yourself.
Yeah.
Put that first, because if you don't, it won't happen at all. You have to make it a priority.
I'm going to end on this one piece. That is, being a woman in tech is one of the most absolute grueling things you will do. It is so challenging, and at times, as Julie said, it will bring you to your knees. But when it brings you to your knees, the beauty about being a female is that it will make you rise stronger, more resilient, more committed, more dedicated to actually achieve what the people say you can't. The biggest thing, though, is that when and if we make it to the top, it's not about just celebrating in the glory, the status, the money, the fame. It's actually that we don't forget to turn around and not just to look at how far we've come, but to actually put a hand out and actually help those other women who are still on their journey to making it through. To assist the students with whether it's advice or mentoring or knowledge, to help them along the journey, because it is so goddamn hard. That we cannot forget where we came from in order to make that path easier for the next generation.
And we've actively done that. Last year we held a grant with Samsung, so we convinced a corporate to give us $20,000 and products, etc. We included some mentoring, and we gave that away to female-founded businesses. And this just month past, or in March for International Women's Day, we got 5 executives in our team to each give away an hour of consulting. So it was 6 hours, including ourselves, to up-and-coming female-founded businesses. So there's 3 female-founded businesses which are getting coaching and mentoring, not just from us, but we're actually using our team's time to give back to other female founders. So if you would like to support a female-founded business that doesn't cost you anything and you can actually really love it and enjoy it, feel free to download our app. It is free, Her Black Book. But thank you so much for listening to us today. We hope that you are enjoying your journey. It's never too late to reset, and we're here to support you and cheer you along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.